and another hour to talk power. Thankfully, not just with me, but with a certified strength coach. And my certified strength coach today is Coach Jack Rustman of Concordia University, Chicago. Coach, welcome to the Power Hour.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Man, you Concordia guys, I've had a lot of Concordia guys lately. Of course, Charles comes on with me almost every night, and we talk ball under the lights show. Have you ever stopped in to watch?
Yeah, yep, I've seen that. He's a ball of fire, man. Tell you what, he's my boss now. So
What? Are you on the defensive side of the ball now?
Yeah. I moved the D line this year. So
Really? Now you've been an O-line coach maybe your whole career?
yeah.
So
That's all I've done.
what inspired the move?
I think just for the staff, it's a better fit. Full-time guys. We got Coach Aubrey, Coach Peterson, all offensive guys. Coach Watts, a defensive guy by himself over there. So Coach Aubrey wanted to give him full-time help and experience help, just to have years of coaching in general. So just to help him out. And also I think me being O-line my whole life, moving to the defensive side and D-line, it's going to give Coach, as far as run game stuff goes, it's going to give Coach Watt some help.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you'll be able to come to it with a whole new perspective. So tell me this, when you made the switch, who was your number one resource? Like, where'd you go to start? Not that you didn't know D-line play, but you start gathering your bank of drills and stuff, like who are some of your main resources?
Yeah, well, one of my good buddies from college, Cedric Douglas, he's a D-line coach at UMass. Okay. So I dug in with him. And then Andrew Strobel, Morehead State, he's a linebacker coach there. He was the defense coordinator, I think, Alma College before that. So I'm going to say Coach Watkins, but why can't I think of his name right now? I'll remember the name a little bit. It's Marlon Watson, sorry. Okay. Have you had Marlon on before?
I don't know, but the name sounds so familiar.
Yeah, he coached for Jason a while ago.
Okay.
So he's another guy I reached out to real quick, and then just years of knowledge, and then I know who to research, who to look up, and what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at, but those three guys helped out a lot, especially Cedric Douglas at UMass. I mean, I text him, he replies back in a minute. So
yeah. And so now you're a D-line coach now, but you've been the strength coach there at Concordia since you got there.
Yeah.
And tell me, and so Coach is going to be talking today about building an annual plan and the importance of an annual plan. And as soon as you said that for what the topic was going to be, I remember we were DMing through Twitter, and immediately I started self-reflecting, like, why am I not doing this? I could see in myself. Like, I would put together like a calendar plan, but that was really for like my whole program. I didn't take the time to really look at the calendar year program for what I wanted to get done lifting wise. So I'm excited to hear about this. Before we jump in and turn it over to you, and again, Coach Rustman is certified through USA Weightlifting. Before I turn it over to you, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to turn it over to you to share and teach us up. Sound good?
Awesome. Look forward to it.
Hey, my name is Wade DeVries, head football coach at Roxana High School down near St. Louis in Illinois. The Chief Pigskin Online Clinic has been huge for us this year. The amount of content that's available on there is exceptional. And having been a speaker on it, the number of contacts that I've been able to make with coaches from around the country has been unbelievable. I couldn't recommend it more.
All right, back from commercial, and time to turn it over. Coach, without further ado, take it away. Jack Rustman, D-line coach and strength coach at Concordia University, Chicago.
Thank you. Do I just share my screen now?
That's right. Just share and take it away. I'm going to mute me.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk about building an annual plan. When Coach reached out to a bunch of strength conditioning coaches, one thing he just, thinking about topics, especially with the time that we're going into right now, especially for younger coaches and even experienced coaches, I guess, but just the importance of having your plan, especially for what's going on, because my annual plan has changed completely He's starting 6 months ago. So, and I'm going to go through this, but we'll talk about the importance of everything. But first off, again, I'm Jack Rustman, D-line coach, strength and conditioning coordinator at Concordia, University of Chicago. Twitter, Instagram handles right there if you want to follow me. I don't post too much, but it's a good way of getting a hold of me, especially the Instagram's more of lifting. A little background about myself. I'm a competitive Olympic weightlifter. I'm now this year probably going to be retired. After football got done, I needed a competitive edge to be filled, and I started Olympic weightlifting. 2017, I took fourth at nationals. 2019, I took fourth at nationals. Sixth before that. I'm not quite strong enough to be the best, but I'm up there. So my best lifts are 151 kilo snatch, which is ground to overhead, and then my best clean and jerk is 195 kilos. So that's the snatch is about 335, 330-ish, and then my clean and jerks, 420s around there. So that's one thing I'm pretty passionate about is just lifting in general. So I've got a master's in exercise science, bachelor's as PE teacher, education, all that stuff. So I'm going to go to, again, building our annual plan. So why? I'm going to go over the why. Why would we even want this? All right. And then what I'm going to give you is examples of everything. I'm going to go through some older kinds and then the one I use. I'll go through that, and then Coach, we'll kind of break that down more during the Q&A if you want. But really, again, for the times that we're in with COVID and the uncertainty of when things are going, and for small schools like us, space is a big factor. So those are things we're going to talk about in this plan. And so the first thing really is just why, right? So it helps you periodize, right? So if you have a 52-week plan, you can go from any kind of periodization schedule you want, from Western block, Eastern block, conjugate, concurrent. You can throw all your cycles in there, all you want, Bulgarian, whatever it is that you have your philosophy in. And that's another topic for another day, is periodization, right? So that gives you a clear kind of outline of what and when you want to do stuff. Another thing is the clear outcomes of our annual plan. So you can see when your data points are supposed to be, when your pre and post tests are supposed to be. And then that allows you to set up your monthly percentages based on, how things are going. And it also gives you that flexibility of changing that and then recording it for the future, right? So you're trying to pave the road for the future by what you're doing, but you can't see what you've done, and build a better road moving forward if you don't know what you've done in the past. So it allows clearly monthly planning where you can just go in and, again, alter what you want to do, change your periodization, change your test dates. And I'll go through those examples and break it down a little bit more. And then it allows you for a comprehensive program. So an annual plan just isn't lifting, right? This throws in leadership development. This throws in your speed, agility, and conditioning work as well. So it's a more comprehensive plan from a strength and conditioning standpoint, where you're not really just working on being in the weight room. All right, we're working on becoming a better athlete, injury prevention, leadership development, faster, quicker, uglier, all that good stuff. All right. And one of the things I love about the annual plan is once it's laid out and done, you can see into the future what maybe the next year is going to look like, or even the next 6 months are going to look like. It also allows you to point out important dates. So in college, way different than high school. I was a high school head coach before, and you pretty much just kind of do it whenever you can do it, really. So having an annual plan, you know when the weight room is going to be open, when you are going to be able to be in school even. And then with how school goes, you're going to have days where you might not see a kid for four days. How are you going to plan that? And you can't do that on the fly. If you have that pre-planned, again, you can see into the future. All right. And then this allows you to look at the uncontrollables. So, weather, for example, we're in the Midwest. So if we have a snow day, all right, I can see how that's going to affect the next couple of weeks. Where if I didn't have an annual plan, I'd be looking at that thing, and just kind of put my hand in my pocket and see what I can pull out. All right. Now, I don't want to be that as a coach, especially as a professional. you want to make sure you're set up for success, and that you know that when you go to coach your kids or even teach your kids, if you're strength and conditioning coach in high schools, that they know that you know what's going on, because that's the biggest thing. So I'm going to move on to some examples. And so when I was younger, 22, 23, when I first started in coaching, I had gotten certified USA weightlifting, NSCA stuff, all that. But I really followed the 52-week plan that USA weightlifting planned out for you. And this is super old school, in my opinion, it is. So they follow the Western Series block, right? A 12-week cycle. So there's, 4 12-week cycles. And from there, you just build off of each one. So there's a hypertrophy phase, a strength phase, a power phase, all that stuff. I don't really do that anymore, but you can kind of see how it's set up if I can put my mouse over it. So this part right here is just measuring percentages, right? So you can see how it's a sliding scale. So, they're at 60%, 65, 75, and then it drops down to 80%. That's called periodization stuff. We can talk about it another day. But it lays out the months and when your intensities are supposed to be, your volume, and it lays out like total volume, total intensities. This is a little harder one because you have a lot more thinking and front end work. But I used to use this, and I actually have a few 52-week programs I've built. I have a few, 16-week ones I've built. But ever since I moved on to the next one I'm going to show is really the biggest kind of where I changed my career. So I started doing this maybe, I want to say 8 or 9 years ago. I started doing it this way, and I've tweaked it, and I've made it my own. But I didn't create this. Nothing that you see I've created myself. I'm a coach, right? I steal from others and I make it my own, and that's really what coaching is. But this one is the one we follow. It's from Joe Ken and Big House Power. It's not the exact one. I've just looked at his template and I've made my own. So with this, it looks kind of confusing, right? And when I showed our coordinators this, who know nothing about strength and conditioning, I just show them all these numbers and letters and colors and everything. They're like, ooh, that's cool. I look cool at least, But for me, this means a lot. So we start our first training year. So this is week 1, right? 11, 18, right? And we go all the way through 11-9 in week 52. So that's one of the biggest things, that it lays out the entire year in a simple form. And then we talk about stages that we're in. So recovery stage, so this is, right after the season for the most part. Developmental is the biggest stage, really. And then it breaks into what kind of program is within that stage. So our off season, and I'm going to go through a little bit of this. So our off season is December, to when the kids return back from school. So that's on their own time. So some uncontrollable factors is what I'm talking about. There's a holiday in that week. Some uncontrollable factors are we can't coach them directly during these times. If you're a high school coach, you wouldn't have that in there. So this is just student athlete downtime, it's called. And that's from Joe Ken. But, student athlete downtime, that's when we can't coach them. We have them on a program through Train Heroic, or I'll give them a binder that they have as well. And we go winter, spring into summer, preseason, which is that camp time, and then in season, right? So we have a recovery phase, so postseason, developmental, which is our biggest, and then we have our competitive stage, which is, in my case, we're always getting stronger. We're always trying to get better. We never really take the in-season mentality where we're trying to maintain. So we're always just trying to get stronger in what we're doing, more flexible, more faster, all that stuff. So it just gives you an ability to lay out everything that you need to see for the future, right? So one thing I really like about this, and I never did this 6 or 7 years ago, I made them 2 separate programs. And I wouldn't even map them out for the year. This puts our running program emphasis. So in our recovery stage, right, in the off-season, postseason, we're just working on general and athletic conditioning. So now when I'm creating my program, I know this is what we're going to focus on for this period from November 18th to January 13th. And, it's not sport specific stuff. It's just building those foundations, right? And then we move into our winter off-season time running program where it's change of direction, speed mechanics, and position-specific stuff before we get into spring ball. So when we talk about position-specific stuff, so that we run in groups of oh man, how many groups do we have? We had 4 different groups, all right? And we had about 65 kids in the off-season, so they were broken up into O-line, D-line together, big skills, which is the linebackers and running backs, and then wide receivers, DBs, and then timed guys who couldn't make certain schedules. So that's where we get a little bit more specific into what they're supposed to be doing. We teach them all good speed mechanics, all that stuff, change of direction, just working on the ankle stability and mobility. Obviously, coronavirus for this year got us, so we didn't have our spring ball time. What you see on there, I can't really zoom in on this one. Maybe we can do it later. But we got our spring ball stuff in there. So one thing I want to kind of focus on, when we talk about uncontrollable factors, we're talking about, things that we know we aren't working out that week or we should prep for, I guess. Or for me as a coach, when I'm developing programs like that student athlete downtime, I know I got to be a little bit more specific in the way I word exercises. Whereas if I'm seeing these kids every single day, I can coach them on those exercises. So my workout exercises can be a little bit more vague. So then because I can communicate with them. So as we move on, summer one split up into May and June, and then July. So that just helps you know, like, this is the first week in May that we're going to be working out. They have finals this week, student athlete downtime. It just allows me to set up my workouts. Because then after that, right, we work on training cycles. So it's a 52-week training cycle, all right? I go in 4-week blocks, and I change the intensity, volume, all that stuff in those 4 weeks. So we have an active rest week, which is usually during, spring break or winter break or Thanksgiving break, Easter break, whatever it is. It's a week long. We don't expect them to work out that time. It's more of an active rest. Like, you test the week before, you have your week off, and usually that week they come back from it. We'll either have like a start of spring ball or something, the start of summer or something hard after that. So they're getting, kind of revitalized and all that stuff. So we talk about variation. This is just the exercise variation gets gigantic in this case. So we're going through more mobility drills. We're going through some of those kind of funky exercises you see on the web where just trying to keep kids interested because they just got beat up for how many ever weeks playing football. You don't want to put them under the rack and getting after it. So this just helps me see, all right, this is the time where I can get a little goofy with my exercises and do that kind of fancy stuff that you see on the web. And then we go base, load, deload, performance. So the performance one is kind of like a pre-testing, try to set a new RM or whatever you need to on that. So, and then one thing I really like about this schedule specifically is I can map out my games. So now I know what games we are in. For one, first week was supposed to be Beloit. We had a holiday in that week, so how am I going to set up my workouts according to that? So that's just good to foreshadow and see that kind of stuff. And also, when I'm planning stuff out with our head coach, he has, like Coach Albaugh said, he has his calendar for the year. How does my annual plan fit within his calendar? It just gets a more descriptive plan for our head coach to see this stuff. So when I give this to him and I explain this stuff, it helps him build his plan around, around what's going on as well. So we can go a little more in depth later about that, Coach, during Q&A, but I always like to give recognition where recognition is due, and I've been, coached by everybody I see. So these are some of my influences in general. Travis Mash, Joe DeFranco, Zach Evanesh, Jim Smith, Vance Newgarden, Andy Tisch, Dustin Branshaw, Joe Ken, Louis Simmons, John Gaglione, Eddie Noblock, and the list can go on and on, But these are guys I just want to shout out. Good dudes, good strength coaches. And these are just strength coaches in general. I'm kind of a tweener. I'm both. So I kind of do a little bit of coaching football and coaching strength and conditioning just because I love strength and conditioning in general. So from there, Coach, that's all I got. And I'm going to stop sharing. There we go.
Man, Coach, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, go ahead and shoot my questions at Coach Rustman and see if he can kind of help us out. For the most part, I'm going to kind of go – I got a lot of questions that go, okay, now, when you were a high school coach. So that's kind of where I'm going. All right, when we come back from a commercial break, we'll be right back. I really want you guys to see this little clip from the online clinic, just a sample of all the incredible videos that we have there. We're proud of the quality, we're proud of the depth of the content, and we're proud of how much content we've got on this online clinic. So enjoy this little sample.
The discipline of a champion, and I live by this, and you don't have to agree, but this is what we've done to have success here. Number one, have a simple plan of execution in which you believe, okay? You can't do everything. You can't run the wing tee, the triple option, the spread, Tony Franklin, throw it all the time. You can't do all those things, and you can't blend them together. Who are you? You got to have a plan, and you got to know what you like, and you got to know what you feel you can be good at. You got to know what your team and your players can do. Develop that plan and tweak and change it as necessary, but then you got to believe in it, and you got to attack it every single day. Number two, commit to your plan with consistency. You got to commit to it, man. You can't go out there and practice power for a week and be like, oh no, we can't do this. You got to keep doing it. You got to realize, man, it's not about where you are week 1, it's about where you are week 20. And you keep chopping wood and keep getting better at it. Number 3, execute your plan with intensity, okay? Execute your plan with intensity. When you go to practice, and I always tell our kids this, our practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday should be more intense and more pressure-packed than the game on Friday night. And then number 4, persevere unto the end. And persevere unto the end, you're going to have failure. You're not always going to have success. You're going to get beat. You're going to go to practice and it's going to feel like a giant waste of time. You're going to have a kid that gets suspended on game day. You're going to have a teacher that comes to you telling you that your best player is a moron in the classroom and that he should be kicked out of school. There's all these things. And I always say, man, just keep working. Just keep working. I'm talking to myself. Just persevere. Chop wood. I'm not going to give up on these boys until the school removes them from me.
Hey, we're back from commercial break with Jack Rustman. He just laid out that building an annual plan and gave us one of the most incredible uses of an Excel spreadsheet I've ever seen. I think that thing, seriously, it's like, you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. I felt like it opened my world to being able to use a simple program like that to do things such as planning. Like, I feel like I only use this for lists. But this is a real planning tool. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that first. And when I ask these questions, I just want to ask that you kind of put that high school coaching hat back on, because I know you spend a lot of time there. I know that's got to be an easy hat for you to kind of put back on.
Yep.
You said pre and post testing. So I'm looking at this, thinking about my own programs I've been in. About how often would you be pre and post testing? And I guess I'm more curious, like at the high school level, what would you recommend?
I would recommend 2 times a year you post test and 2 times a year you pre-test. And you could get away with possibly doing 1 pre-test, just because in high school, especially, you don't have as long as a break away from seeing the kids as we do in college. And so I would kind of like, there's only a 2-week break from when you would end, technically your post test in December. And then you would see him the second week in January, and you wouldn't need to pre-test them because their loss wouldn't be as much in general. Where we have a full month in college, so in college I would pre and post twice. So when they get to school at the end of the semester, because again in our off season or our in season, we're trying to get stronger. So that's just in general. If I was in high school, I did the same thing. I tried to post test them in December anyways. But the second half, I would pre-in when they got back from break. post at the end of the year again. Now with that though, this is where your periodization and your philosophy comes in. We do like an active 2 rep max every roughly 4 to 8 weeks. So you remember seeing the performance, the green highlight?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we would push a heavy 2 rep max. And a lot of kids will get a heavier 2 rep max than their original 1 rep.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just bump those numbers up on their sheets.
Okay. Now, is there anything different with what a pre-test looks like versus a post-test? Or is a testing day a testing day? It's just a matter of whether this came before or an after.
Yeah, I would try to keep the standards as similar as possible, because then your measurements, accurate and reliable. Otherwise, you're getting in kind of like, this looks like it could match up with this.
Right.
In high school, though, I remember I didn't have a lot of the things I have at Concordia. So, like, we never had a vert tester, right?
Okay,
so I would just put up, like, a thing on the wall, try to beat this next time, you know what I'm saying? So it wouldn't be as reliable. But, who's actually – and I think you've had him on, the guy from Tony Holler.
Haven't had Tony, no.
Okay.
But I know the name, Brad Dixon.
Dixon, yeah. So what they're doing is really good for high school measurements, because now you need might need the speed test or the laser tester that they have. But
that lap system, the free lap timer.
But that theory in testing is good, because they're testing all the time.
Right.
Making a competitive atmosphere. So and that's something also that works. It's just for what you want to do, what your philosophy is what matters.
Now, at the collegiate level, high schools are well known for, at least a lot of high schools, weight rooms are well known for, like, you've got the records board and the guy does this and his name goes up. And do you get that same thing? Have you brought any of that to Concordia? Is it just because I don't remember ever seeing that in my college weight room?
Yeah.
That's just not a college thing.
Not yet. This is only our second year. So we're just trying to build a strength program. This is the first off season that these kids have had in 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
You could tell just by the excitement they had. We were in the weight room 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and we would run 3 days a week as well. So, or 2 days a week. So we were doing 5 days of exercising, for the first time that they've ever done that.
Yeah.
So we had some seniors that were like, whoa, what's going on? And to be honest with you, I'd look at some of the old numbers that they tried to keep. Oof, it was a little rough.
Yeah, sure. Well, what kind of strength goals do you guys have right now? Like, as a team, I know I used to really like to set out strength goals for our team. And we say, hey, we want this many guys to be here. And maybe you haven't set that for your team, but just personally, as a collegiate strength coach, like, do you ever have that in mind? Like, I'd like to see this many of our guys be able to do this much weight on a certain lift.
Yeah. So for me, it's how many guys could we have squat over 405?
Okay.
Perfect form. How many guys can we have bench over 275 or 315? And then how many guys can we have clean, power clean or clean, 275 or above?
Okay.
And this is in high school. This is in, I think, any level. The more kids that you have that hit that, for example, we're at Joliet West. I think that we had a 50% rate of kids squatting to depth over 405, and that was the year we made the playoffs for the first time in school history. For me as a strength coach, I got to say that's like direct correlation and causation to why we made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now again, it goes a lot more into it, but if we only have 10 kids instead of 30 kids squatting over 405, I don't think we make the playoffs.
Sure.
But that's years and years of. We were there for 9 years or 10. I was there for 10 years, maybe 8 years, 9 years, something like that. And that's years of preparation, because when we first got there, I think we had 2 guys who could squat over 405. And then when we left, I couldn't even tell you how many guys, because it was a lot. So
right, it became the norm, right?
Right.
It became the norm. Well, cool. All right, so let's move on to my next question. You mentioned the words load and deload, and they were on there. And again, I'm a rookie in the strength world. Can you help me understand those 2 terms?
Yeah, so we have 3 phases in that. So the base phase is the lowest intensity. that you're going to start out to get that kind of nervous system going. And then your load phase is the preload to their performance phase. So how I structure things, I go 5 by 5. My rep scheme for my core lifts are 5 by 5 for base phase. So our intensity's, middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go 6 sets of 3 for week 2, which is our, load week. So now our intensity is 5 to 10% higher, depending on where you start. And then, so we kind of break them down those 2 weeks. Then that third week is a deload. And then we'll take off maybe 10% from the load phase. So it's kind of goes up, down, and you saw that in that first or that slide with USAW. I've done that for a long time, and I love it. Just because when we come back for that performance week after the deload, their nervous systems are ready, because that deload is a rehabilitation time, I guess. So we do the same exercises, but we take off the load and we take off the intensity and the volume. So the volume, instead of doing 6 sets of 3, we'll do 4 sets of 5. So we're only doing 20 reps of our core lift, and then same thing with the accessories. We take that load off. And then our running time is focused on mobility, extra mobility stuff. So it'll take longer in our warm-ups and mobility. And then we'll teach more movement mechanics during that time. So then the fatigue level, by the time they get to that week 3, is low. And then they build that back up for a performance week. So now our performance week is like we get after it time. So then that performance week, we do 7 sets of 2, or like a 2-rep max kind of deal. And it really depends on the time of the year when things are, but usually that's the exercise volume that I follow.
How much of what you see would you say? How much correlation, percentage-wise, is it my strongest guys happen to be the ones that are playing? I mean, you know what I mean? Is it like our strongest 11 are the 11 that play? Or like, how close is that?
I've got both sides of this, because I've seen some weight room heroes that are terrible on the field.
Sure.
I think the saying is they'll look like Joe but play like Jane.
Sure. Look like Tarzan, play like Jane.
There you go. And I see that a lot. But what I kind of see, it's more about the effort than the strength, I guess. Because what we're looking for is more power output. The kids that I see with more power output are usually the ones that are playing.
What does that mean? Tell me, because I've heard that several times. What does power output mean?
Yeah, so for me,
and how does that differ from strength, right? Because in my brain, there's still one. So help me understand that.
Right. So strength is like a meathead can just lift something up, but he can't move through that range of motion without looking like he's about to break. Right. And then power would be like your ability to, and for me, the definition's different, because I like to see that fluidity through movement, and how he can transition that into like lifting something. So clean, for example, is a perfect exercise for me. So for me, and I've done a lot of Olympic lifts in our programs, the kids who can transfer that exercise and add weight. And when I say transfer the exercise, I mean like do it correctly. So transfer through each position correctly, and then move it with efficiency. Those are the kids that can jump on the boxes, multiple planes of movement, and they can establish their athletes, I guess you can say, but not in the traditional sense of like I can jump really high or I can run really fast in a certain direction. I'm talking about kids who can move anywhere, anytime. They can jump anywhere, anytime. And then when you see them like squat, for example, right? That's the biggest like eye test for strength coaches. Anybody you see that can squat with relative ease, they're most likely going to be your best athletes.
Yeah. All right. Last question for you, Coach. Within your team, and you train just the football team there at Concordia, or other teams as well? Just football.
Just
team?
Football. In
your program, is it all on one program, or is there anything within your program where you train one position differently than another?
I tried doing that a little bit. So we did do that this year, where like some of our accessory stuff. So I follow a conjugate system. So there's a dynamic day in there. I follow a concurrent conjugate system. It's pretty common, but we have like a dynamic day in there where it's just cleans, jumping, moving with efficiency, all that stuff. So for our linemen, we actually would use like jammers. We have like this hex bar jammer that we can hook up to the hammer strength rack. And then for our skill guys, we would do treadmill incline sprints. So instead of them doing some of the power stuff, we had them doing top end speed work.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where we would change up that. But for the core strength of everything, like our core lifts, I don't vary at all because those lifts really build the foundation that you want for them to move properly, to teach them good movement patterns. But now you get into your accessories, that's where you can alter, single arm, lunges for big guys would be awesome, right? I would actually argue single arm lunges for everybody is awesome, but big guys probably need a little bit more than the skill guys because they don't need that dexterity as much as the linemen do, so they can do a little bit more of the like treadmill work that we were talking about.
Okay.
I don't vary much.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, Coach, I really appreciated your time. I think that I got a ton from this. Now, that planning document, is that something that guys can get a hold of?
Yeah. Email me. I'll share it with you, Coach, if you want to put it out there. I'm not trying to hide any secrets. I didn't create any of it, so it's not mine.
Yeah, sure.
I just changed it to fit me. So,
yeah.
But you guys can, go on bighousepower.com. I think it's the website name is still
Okay,
still there.
bighousepower.com. Yeah, well, I encourage you guys to check that out. Hey, look up Coach Rustman on Twitter. That's at Coach Rustman. And he is the defensive line coach now and strength coach at Concordia University, Chicago. Hope that you guys have enjoyed this Power Hour. Coach Rustman, any closing thoughts?
Hey, excited for what's going on here. You guys are doing some good things, Coach, and I appreciate it. And I do have to say, in the opening video of the TV show, you're wearing a really nice sweatshirt.
Was I in some Johnsburg gear?
Yes, you were.
I'll tell you, hey, I was just coming fresh from Johnsburg when I was filming that show. And like the whole show, I go back and forth between my Milford gear and my Johnsburg gear because that's where I came from. It was from Johnsburg to Milford. Man.
Looks good.
Yeah. I had a great time at Johnsburg. And Jack's a old Johnsburg grad. And I worked with his current head coach, Jason Aubrey, there. So great memories. Great memories.
I agree.
All right, Coach. Well, you guys take care and good luck to you guys at Concordia University Chicago this week. You guys can catch us next Monday right here for the Power Hour.
Thanks, Coach.